the sophomore slump, the bane of a lot of young players' existence. And sometimes it gets even worse when young players show that they have potential in their first season and get thrusted in even more responsibility in their second year, and then they don't really produce that well. But there's some players that are able to avoid it, certain players that do step up to the plate and show that they're one of the better young players in the NBA. And this past season, Trey Murphy was one of those players. The 22-year-old not only showed that he's great offensively, being able to score in a multitude of ways, and one of the best shooters underrated athletically, but he improved staunchly on the defensive end also, showing that he has a lot of two-way versatility, and with that large frame and that 6'9" body and overall looks like underrated strength, he could be a force to be reckoned with on multiple spots on the floor. So let's talk about why Trey Murphy is not only one of the best young scorers in the NBA, but could be one of the best players in the league in just a few years. So this past season, the New Orleans Pelicans had a lot of expectations going through this season. They're expecting to have both their stars coming back healthy in both Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, and with what they showed in the playoffs versus the Phoenix Suns the year previous, they showed that they were probably one of the better young teams in the NBA, and they showed that they could probably fulfill a lot of those potential early on in the season. They were at one point the 1 seed in the Western Conference, and with Zion in the lineup, they were a whopping 23-15 throughout the season. A pretty good record considering what the rest of the league looked like throughout the entire year. But with Zion going down, all of that went to hell. Not to mention an early concussion from Brandon Ingram that kept him out for a large amount of games. Things just weren't going well for the Pelicans at all. But that allowed certain players to fill in certain spots and play a lot more bigger roles and play a starting job for this team that they weren't going to get if Zion and Brandon Ingram played a lot of those games. And one of those players was Trey Murphy. Trey Murphy this past season averaged 14.5 points, 3.6 rebounds, 1.4 assists, 1.1 steals, 0.5 blocks on 48% shooting, 40% from 3, and 90% from the line. Along with that, he showed some staunch improvements on the defensive end, but he also started 66 games this season. In those 66 games, his averages looked even better at 15.4 points, 3.5 rebounds, 1.4 assists on 49% shooting, 42% from 3, and again, 90% from the line, showing that when given the opportunity, he's one of the better young players in the NBA. But that's not just where his amazing play ended this past season, because later in the year, it got even better for this New Orleans Pelicans team, because in the month of March, he was absolutely sensational. In that month, Trey Murphy designated as the third best scorer on this team behind Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum. And given those responsibilities and shot attempts, he averaged 18.7 points, 3.6 rebounds, 1.8 assists, 1.5 steals, 0.7 blocks on 50% shooting, 45% from 3 on 8.9 attempts per game, and 94% from the line. Again, showing that given the responsibility, he's one of the better young players and one of the better young scorers in the NBA. Along with the versatility shown on the defensive end this past season, Trey Murphy is actually showing that he can explode into being one of the best young players in the NBA and give the Pelicans some flexibility in what they can do at any point in the season if they decide to move in a different direction than Zion, depending on what goes with his health and how they feel on the roster. But even then, having somebody that can shoot this well on this team, especially in the catch and shoot, with Zion on this roster with the amount of room pressure he already provides and the playmaking he can only muster, if he can play a full season and was completely healthy, this Pelicans team can be completely and utterly dangerous in this NBA. But that's not where his impact stopped. As you can see, I've said multiple times in this video that he is one of the better defenders on this team. And this past season, he showed that, as he was second on the team in steals and second in blocks with 89 steals and 43 blocks this past season. And overall, he was in the 84th percentile in the NBA in defensive impact. That's with a 6'9" frame with a 7-foot wingspan. For players that don't really block too many shots in the NBA, you'd want them to provide at least some level of disruption on the perimeter, and Trey Murphy was doing both of those things, providing a certain level of rim protection while being quick, agile, with a lot of length and athleticism to provide a lot of disruption on the perimeter. And he is extremely switchable in the pick and roll. He can stay on bigs for a couple possessions here and there. And overall, he's just always engaged on that end. And he said that that was a place that he was very, very honed in on in his training in the offseason. He also joins a pretty elite club when it comes to efficiency this past season, as he joins Kevin Durant and Duncan Robinson as the only two players to average 60% from 2, 40% from 3, and 90% from the line. And he's the youngest player to do that at 22. And of course, with those numbers and those metrics, of course, you know, there's a certain difference in volume when it comes to Kevin Durant and then all the way to Duncan Robinson, but he fits right in the middle, and he shows that given the opportunity, he's still uber efficient, and even given more shots, he's still as efficient. His efficiency normally goes up when you give him more shots. Overall, the kid is absolutely fantastic. He's incredible in transition. He, again, very disruptive on the defensive end, and with his athleticism, speed, length in transition, he provides a great target for guys that want to do dump off passes, and he knows how to spot up in transition from 3, and he is great off the dribble. And speaking of his 3-point shooting, he's one of the better in the NBA. In the 80th percentile, shooting nearly 50% from 30 feet plus this past season. He's just already one of the best shooters in the NBA. Can do it in a multitude of ways. Off the pull-up, in transition, catch and shoot, above the break threes, in the corner. He's just absolutely amazing. Of course, he has a lot of open shots because the players on his team is CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, and Zion when he's on the roster. But being able to capitalize on those open opportunities is not what a lot of guys are able to do at this point. He is just very good overall as a shooter, and he also says that his main goal this next season, or this next offseason, is to work on his dribble and get better at scoring off the dribble, and that is the next leap in his game that I think is going to make him a surefire scorer in this NBA. Being able to do things on the ball already with his crazy off the ball ability and his defensive disruptions and ability to score in transition, Trey is going to be one of the better players in this NBA quite easily, and I would expect him to definitely jump all the way up to get 18 to maybe 20 points per game next season. And at 23 years old, with that reputation already as a scorer, with that size and that defensive engagement, Trey is already going to be one of the better players in the NBA. He's almost like Jaden McDaniels, like the antithesis of him. Jaden McDaniels is incredible on the defensive end while showing some great upside on the offensive end, while Trey Murphy is incredible on the offensive end while showing a lot of upside on the defensive end. They're both kind of in the same category, but like two sides of the same coin. But let me know guys in the comment section down below. Do you think Trey Murphy can be one of the better young players in the NBA? With that being said, this is Fabi, that's that time, and I'm out. If you enjoyed the video and you enjoyed me talking about young players, you can check out the video where I talked about either Jaden McDaniels or Franz Wagner. I think you guys would enjoy either one of those two videos. Or you can check out the video where I talked about Trae Young and him being one of the most underrated players in the NBA. With that being said, this is FLB, that's my time, and I'm out.